Hi, and welcome to Inside View. I'm your host, Joel Metzger, and joining me today is Debbie Ponte, who is the District 4 Supervisor for Calaveras County. Nice to have you on the show.
Hi, thank you, Joel. Nice being here.
Is this your third time or second time? I know you were on throughout the debates in the election.
I've been on CCTV on and off for the last probably 10, 15 years.
Oh,
but
you have.
My first time as the elected Supervisor of District 4.
Well, let me be one of the last to congratulate you
on
your victory.
Thank you.
Well done. Throughout the election, we got to know you a little bit, but for those who perhaps have not been introduced, I was hoping you could give me a brief history of where you were born and then how you worked your way through your various careers and education and then ended up as a supervisor.
Sure. I was actually born in Livermore, California. My parents were living in the Sonora area and had moved here after their graduation from high school. So I was delivered in Livermore, California, lived there for 3 days and came to Sonora. Lived in Sonora for about 8 years and moved over to the Angels Camp area when I was in the 3rd grade. So I attended local schools, graduated from Bret Harte High School, attended college in Stockton and Fresno, have a degree in marketing, public relations, journalism, and worked out of the area for a few years and had this burning desire to return to Calaveras County. I miss the seasonal weather, you might say, and the smallness and uniqueness of our communities. So I returned to Calaveras County and settled back in Angels Camp, worked at Mark Twain Hospital, which soon became Mark Twain St. Joseph's Hospital, and worked in the area of marketing and recruitment of physicians and other professionals. Performed those duties for about 12 years. Went on to become a manager of the tasting room at Ironstone Vineyard for about a year and a half. Took some time off and began my role as I currently have now as Executive Director of Foothill Village Senior Living Community in Angels Camp, and I've had that position since January of 2000.
Oh.
So done a little bit of variety of jobs, but primarily in the area of public relations and marketing, business development, and that sort of thing.
I didn't know that you had worked for Mark Twain and then at Ironstone. That's pretty cool. What was it like? What was it like being the taste room manager?
It was a busy job. When I started the position, I didn't care for wine. Acquired a taste of wine under Mr. Millier, who was the winemaker, and showed me the goodness of the wine. And it was a good experience for me. It was really showed me a lot of tourism in Calaveras County. And I was just amazed at where people traveled from to come to Calaveras County and what brought them to the county. And so it was a unique opportunity to kind of to not only manage the tasting room and everything that's associated with that, but also to talk to tourists and find out what brought them to Calaveras County.
You mentioned that there were a few things that brought you back, the small communities and so on and so forth, but what are some things that you really truly enjoy about living here now?
Oh, I think it's the beauty of the area. Certainly I think the elevation, the seasonal changes I thoroughly enjoy, but for me, I enjoy the ruralness of the area. My family and I live on some property outside of Angels Camp where we have a small ranch and enjoy growing some grapes and raising cattle and just the beauty of the area. I think also the people. It's when you lived in Stockton and Fresno, you were just another person who lived somewhere. When you live in Calaveras County, you tend to really get to know your neighbors, and you're a part of the school, you're a part of your community, and that's something that you don't find in too many areas of California.
What kind of grapes are you growing?
A little bit of Zinfandel and Merlot and Shiraz.
And do you make the wine, or do you have it made, or do you sell it?
No, last couple of years, the birds have enjoyed it,
Oh,
so we fed the
no.
birds. It's strictly family, so my father-in-law has made wine for many, many years, and we have some friends and family members that will come and pick grapes and make it. So we are not a commercial by any means in that regards.
Okay. But they are beautiful to look at, aren't they?
They are. It's a little bit of our green space. And like I say, this time of year, the birds are having a feast on our crop. So.
So tell me, I mean, you have obviously had a very long and successful career in a number of different areas. What was it that made you think, hey, I'm going to take on even more responsibility as a supervisor?
Well, those who know me have seen me do this all of my life. In high school, going back way back in high school, I was very involved in many different things and continue that involvement in my community through college. When I returned to the area, I was very involved with the Chamber of Commerce and EDC and many of the business associations. Belonged to the Seroptimus Club for a short period of time. There was a time through the 90s into the mid-2000s where I put my name on the ballot and ran for the City of Angels City Council and served in that capacity for 8 years, 2 terms. And within the City of Angels City Council, there was all these other feelers and arms and legs out there. So I participated with the Utica Power Authority and the Transportation Agency, LAFCO, and really got a good feel for government, certainly in Angels Camp, but really beyond there because so many of these committees brought in all of Calaveras County. So decided I did not run for my 3rd term. I kind of belong in that, or how should I say this? I believe in short-term limits. I think 2 terms is about what people should serve. And I was getting ready to move out of the City of Angels limits, so I did not choose to run. And but always had a desire to get back into politics at some level. And I think the opportunity just came about a year and a half ago where I decided I was ready to tackle the job as county supervisor and run for this office.
What was the campaign like for you?
I enjoyed it. I've always enjoyed all my campaigning. I felt I basically ran what I consider a grassroots campaign. Did a lot of walking the beat, you might say, meeting a lot of people, attended a lot of community functions. I'm not there to, not one of those persons who likes to be in the limelight and, hey, I'm here and that sort of thing. So do a lot of behind the scenes meeting with people and talking with people on a one-to-one basis. And so I also found where social media was very helpful. And that's how I could reach out to the younger voter. And of course, my 2 daughters being teenagers and in college were helpful in that endeavor. And so I learned a lot more about the social media and the power behind that as well.
And you kind of had a landmark campaign in that the gentleman that you beat, Tom Tryon, has been, I believe, one of, if not the longest serving supervisors in the county's history. Mm-hmm. And so definitely, that was kind of a tall order. But you did end up winning and winning by a good margin. Do you guys start the 1st of January or like the first week, or how does that work?
Yeah, it was the first Tuesday in January where we started. The campaigning part of it was over by November, but really that's when a lot of the work began. It began prior to that, but once you're elected, you might say some additional doors opened so that you kind of got a more behind the scenes look at what was going on and who was who. And certainly the county departments were very helpful. Most contacted me, invited me to come in and meet with them, tour their departments, learn more about what they did in their budgets and that sort of thing. So that was very helpful during that kind of 60-day time frame between being elected and actually taking office.
What does a supervisor do? And I'm sure you learned this kind of as you did it. Mm-hmm. But what's the job description in your mind?
Gosh, I don't know if there is a formal job description or not. It's a little bit of everything. But I see my role as one to be able to set policy. Where do we want Calaveras County to go? What do we want to be when we grow up? And being involved in that policy-making decision. I'm also there for the constituents if they have some problems and they're not able to get things accomplished or having some difficulty, being that bridge, that facilitator maybe between the constituent and a county department or something along those lines. I do a lot of reading and research. I do a lot of reaching out to people beyond Calaveras County, look for best practices. What can we bring to our county? Look at what's good in the county and try to grow upon that. I'm finding that there's an awful lot of meetings, some very good, some I question why are we still on this commission? Why did this group still meet? What is the purpose? So part of the process for me is taking a look at those kinds of things and making recommendations to my fellow board members or perhaps the administrative office to say, do we really need this committee any longer? So I probably spend, I'm going to say anywhere from 40 to 50 hours a week in some capacity in this job in regards to either attending meetings, participating, meeting constituents, phone calls, research, that sort of thing.
And along with all of this time, you also have these meetings that happen, is it once every 2 weeks now or once a week?
Yeah, the second and fourth Tuesday are the Board of Supervisor meetings. Plus, we were able to bring on a night meeting.
Yes.
And so kind of the compromise to that was to try it for the fifth Tuesday of the month and see how that works and perhaps grow on that. And the meetings weren't necessarily, yes, there are business meetings and we have business at that particular meeting, but also gave people the opportunity to attend a night meeting if they're not able to attend it during the day. So hopefully as we look at our agendas, we can have the kinds of night meetings and the items on the agenda that are maybe more public, more widespread, maybe a bigger interest, and where people can come and maybe speak on a particular subject matter, such as the general plan.
And do you feel like that was successful in your first attempt at the night meeting?
I believe so. What was really nice about it on that particular night, Supervisor Wright wanted to do something to recognize the good work of the community of Railroad Flat in the school. And so it was well attended by citizens that live in the community, parents, some of the students of the school. So, it really touched my heart that night to see specifically the youth come and talk about their school and what it meant for them going to that small school.
And I've been in a number of meetings. I don't think I've ever seen anyone who's a young person. So that would be neat to see that.
It was pretty neat to see.
During the campaign, one of the things that you answered to was that you were going to stay on with Foothill Village along with being a supervisor. Some said the supervisor job is a lot of time. You just said 40, 50 hours a week, but Foothill Village is also some time. So now that you've kind of been doing this and balancing these two responsibilities, how's it going for you?
I think it's going very well. You have to remember there's 24 hours in a day. So, what's nice about both of my jobs is that it offers a lot of flexibility. My job as an administrator at Foothill is not your typical Monday through Friday 8 to 5 job. So the folks I work for have been, very gracious to me to allow lots of flexibility, which I was afforded to in the past prior to this election. So it's been nice to be able to balance that. There are some days I'm never at Foothill Village, but I'm a phone call away. And they know now on Tuesdays is kind of a dedicated board day. If I'm not at a Board of Supervisor meeting, then I'm typically out in the community meeting with constituents. I do a lot of nighttime things. That's a lot of my reading and research kind of for both jobs. And with the county, the board meets during the day, but there's several commissions and such that I'm on that meet at night, such as Council of Governments, the Transportation Commission, the Fish and Game Commission. So there's a lot of flexibility in both jobs in regards to meetings and the various time that's necessary to do a good job for both.
Has being a supervisor been what you expected so far?
I think so. There were some in the beginning. You inherited a lot. Not only my predecessor in serving District 4, but the county at large. I mean, the county just didn't turn on and off when supervisors were elected. So, I think in the beginning for me, it was learning everything that had been going on in 1-2 years worth of work, and now we were at this decision point of it's going to be on the January agenda. But yet this work had been going on for a year or two. So in the beginning, it was those kinds of things with getting up to speed and being able to talk to as many people as you can and getting the good information you could to make those decisions.
I'm curious to know if moving forward you see any particular challenge that stands out above all the rest that you and other board members will face.
I think for me, and I believe I speak for my counterparts as well, is our general plan and our budget. Specifically our general plan. I think we are dead in the water if we don't have a general plan that is current in meeting various state laws quickly. And quickly in government can be a year or two, it seems like. Nothing happens overnight. But, there's been a lot of work on the general plan in the last, I'm going to say 5 to 10 years, it seems like. There's been a variety of people involved in it. There's been a lot of money spent on it. I'm not here to justify any of that from the past. I'm here from this day forward to get it done. I think as a board, that is our commitment, and we are spending the money to get it done, as well as dedicating the staff to getting it done. I certainly would like to have it done in a year. That's not really realistic. And one of the reasons I see in that is that one of the things most important to me is to see that people are aware of the general plan and how it affects their little slice of heaven here in Calaveras. And to do that, you have to give people ample time to respond to land use maps and to different aspects of the general plan. And you can't expect these folks to do it within a 30-day time frame. So what I'm finding is people need a little bit longer to be able to review and respond to the questions that we're asking, and we want that kind of input. So if it means that we have to extend the date out a little bit, another 6 months or perhaps a year to allow that kind of community input, then I think that's most important. There are some things that we are so restricted by law that I can understand that, but what can we do as a county maybe to have policy in place to be able to work with those kinds of regulations? And certainly we need the community input for that.
Debbie, what is a general plan for those who have never even heard of it before?
It's like the roadmap to Calaveras County, as I often describe it to a younger generation, as like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And when you look at Calaveras County, we have all these pockets of populations. I think there's something like 28 zip codes within Calaveras County, and each community is unique in their own way, and they all see themselves in a different way. So it's how to kind of meld that together. Where do you want your residential growth? In what communities? Where do you want your industrial growth? What kind of jobs do you want to have? Where do you want retail sale? Where do you want tourism? How about the ag lands? So all of those dynamics need to come together, and so you're mapping out where you want to see Calaveras County, specifically in the next 10, 20, 30 years. May not all come to fruition, but you have to be able to plan for it. And while some people think, the growth end of the county is in Copperopolis, you have folks in Valley Springs saying, wait a minute, what about our neck of the woods? So that's where all of these folks coming together, i.e. the public, whether you belong to a group or as an individual, speaking about the general plan, and put together the land use aspects of the plan. And then from there you start talking about, the economics of the plan, where you want your natural resources, where's the water going to come from, what are you going to do about noise? So there's different elements of the plan that pull that together. But, as I think about general plan, I'm constantly asking myself, where do we want to be when we grow up?
So that's what it really boils down to.
Mm-hmm. With many, many laws attached to it. And most coming down, from the state level. It's, the state of California has basically dictated to have a general plan, and these are the various elements, and then within that there are many regulations to follow. So we need to figure out, where we want these things and then set our policy to meet those needs.
What are the elements the state says you must have these elements?
I don't know if I can recall all of them. I know land use, water, noise, transportation or circulation, natural resources. Those are some of the key elements that come to the top of my head. But I believe there are other elements that you can take into consideration. But I think we're starting with the core group of what we need to do. Housing is another important element to that.
And is land one of the most controversial, would you say?
At this point it is. We are looking at several drafts of our land use. It used to be, here's a map of Calaveras County, and it was many different colors. And now we're starting to define those colors. Where do we want residential growth? Where is the natural resources areas, boundaries are going to be, what are we going to do in regards to business development, or where do we want our industry, where do we want retail sales. So that's pretty much, as you look at land use, you have this mapped out on a map to see the different areas, and then within that land use designation, you start to deal with your zoning and things like that. So ultimately, this general plan will affect every piece of property in Calaveras County in some ways. Some might be the same as it was in the last general plan, but in the new general plan, it might define that a little bit differently now.
Do people understand how much this could affect them? Or are you still working to get the word out?
Still working to get the word out. I have to tell you that probably on any given time, if I speak to 10 people in one day, 3 understand it, 4 probably a little bit, and the others don't care. So, getting the word out in Calaveras County is one of the most difficult challenges. We certainly have our different forms of media, but, I find so many times it comes down to word of mouth, and you're talking to your neighbor, and so you have to look at all different areas to get the word out.
Along the lines of land use, and I hope this fits into this section, there's been a kind of a 40-acre minimum of splitting up big pieces of property. So, and that's a pretty big chunk of land still. And I've heard talk that some people think that might be a little bit too big. Maybe some people wanted to break it into smaller pieces for various reasons. I would like to know, where do you come down on this argument about splitting land up?
Well, currently, that's what's in the makings of the land use because of past policies and direction of the board. So at the last map, that was kind of saying, yeah, I think we're on that same track. We really are trying to get community centers developed, and within the community centers are where people are living or they're attached to the community centers. I'm not sold on that. I believe that when someone bought a piece of acreage and at some point it was going to be their nest egg to supplement retirement, or they wanted to pass down to family, and at some point maybe family wanted to build on, a 40-acre size or 100-acre or whatever it might be, that they should be given that opportunity to do so. So I kind of see both sides of it, and I really lean towards, we can't have one size fit all. So where is a happy medium in that? Because certainly we have chunks of land throughout Calaveras County that, if somebody owns 100 acres and they want to give, each child 50 or divide it up 4 different ways, they should be able to do that, and if they want to build a home. And my thing is how to best allow them to do that with the understanding that there are probably no public services for what you're trying to do. So you yourself will have to find a way to fund those kinds of that infrastructure of water, sewer, your roadway, and that sort of thing. So I'd like to see where we can try to find a happy medium, because I don't think one size fits all. And I think we have a lot of land here in Calaveras County that if most people understood that, they would be very angry with that. And those are the people that need to come to our general plan meetings and speak to that. So I'm hopeful that they'll do that over the next several months as we produce, I think it's map number 2, 3, I kind of mini map, so I get confused. But soon, a new map will be out and allow for people to speak about it.
And as you and others have said, when people do care about this is when they go to split their land, or they go and they realize this has affected them. And from personal experience, there's nothing more frustrating than knowing, oh no, I can't do that because of a decision that was made that I didn't take the time to be part of.
Right.
So I'm sure throughout the papers and radios and everything, the news will get out about when they can go, but they can certainly attend meetings and workshops and all that.
Yes, and participate in the process. And I know it can be discouraging and frustrating, but if you don't speak up for yourself, there may not be somebody doing that for you. And if people are able to purchase this land and be able to want to split it, and they can afford the infrastructure, then I believe they should be able to do so. So again, a happy medium. I don't think we can have one size fits all.
Real quick question before we go talk about budget. There was a sewer leak in Lake Tulloch not that long ago, and it's now been stopped. Can people swim in Lake Tulloch now?
I would.
No problem.
Yes, it was something that was identified towards the end of July. Staff looked at the time, they didn't see anything. Come back a few other times, they found where something was awry. Taking a few dives into the water, finding out there was a breach in a more or less a private lateral. So at that time, they were able to plug the lines. They also talked to the private landowner. He is pumping his sewage, not pumping it through the system, but he has an outside source coming in as needed to pump the sewage out of his tank. And at this point, everything is capped off and safe. Water was tested along the way, sent to the various state agencies. The initial review of this water was that it was safe to be able to swim in. It's not drinking water, so I don't think per se it was tested for the drinking compatibility, and it continues to be monitored. So once in a while there are phone calls in saying, I see bubbles, I see bubbles. County staff, primarily through environmental health, is keeping on top of this, watching, verifying that the private landowner continues to pump the sewage from his tank, that nobody has tapped into that particular line. So at this point, I would say the water is safe to swim in. It was asked the other day if I would let my children swim in the water, and I say I have, and they do. They like to swim and kayak in Lake Tulloch. But more importantly, it's now looking at a long-term solution. What I understand is that there are many kinds of private septic systems and public septic systems in that general area of Lake Tulloch. So I'm hoping for a meeting of the minds with CCWD and Tridam, and to take a look at the broader picture of the lake and see what's there. And if everything is okay, great. If not, what do we need to work on? So
Sounds like it's being handled. We have very limited time, but I wanted you to just comment on the budget. One-time funds were spent to meet the gap this time. Next year, the CAO says, unless the economy really recovers and we get more revenues, it's not going to work out. You voted for using the one-time funds just in 1 minute. How did that work out for you?
I think just fine. I thought it was important to spend those funds. A lot of what I hear about is the lack of public safety and a general feeling of safety in the communities. That's pretty much where we decided most of our emphasis. We also place money in technology. I'm hoping with increased technology, better technology, that we can do our jobs a little bit easier at the county level, be much more efficient. It was termed one-time funds. I'm thinking out of the box. I'm more optimistic. I believe we will be finding funding sources in other ways. I believe now we can look at increased efficiencies. I'm hopeful that as we get the general plan closer to completion, that we're taking a look at the EDC, the economic development portion of that, and working hard to recruit business to our area as well as grow who is currently in Calaveras County. I think there's a lot more opportunity for people who are already here to grow their businesses. We just need to help them do that.
Debbie Ponte, the optimist.
Oh, you bet.
How do people get a hold of you if they want to chat?
Well, I work a lot with email, so it's if you go to the Calaveras County website under Board of Supervisors, but my email is dponte@co.calaveras.ca.us. Took me a while to get that one, and that's perhaps the best way.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thanks.
And thank you for joining me on this edition of Inside View. I'm your host, Joel Metzger, and I hope to see you here next time.